we all had this plan that we were going to walk out these doors, but it didn't quite work that way.
So far, everything's going as planned, Tommy. Tommy's brilliant so far.
Exceptional.
Well, folks, the reason we asked you here today, we're calling our concert Full Circle, and it's tunes and songs of the living tradition. And I wanted you to meet my dear friends. Make welcome Tommy and Sandra O'Sullivan. And Tommy and Sandra were kind enough last night to make a huge road trip and play a great gig with us down in Charlotte. And there was a gentleman who was asking me, he says, now tell me, how did you meet Tommy? And I said, well, I was in Dingle, Ireland, and I stepped into the courthouse pub, and I looked to my left. I said, and there he was. And that's how I met Tommy O'Sullivan. Has that been 2 years or three? Three, two. And it was a music. The O'Sullivan's Courthouse Pub in Dingle, Ireland is known as a music pub. And of course, the entire country of Ireland is known for being the roots of a lot of our traditional music. And so once I met Tommy, then there was also a Texas barbecue going on that day, as I recall. And I met Tommy's lovely wife, Sandra. And we played some music together. And folks, really, you know, Americans, we have a hard time with language, but when you play music, you speak the language of everybody in the world. And so that's how we made the connection, was through music. And so just for Tommy and Sandra's entertainment, and for yours as well, Kay and I are going to open with a traditional Irish tune, with Kay on the dee whistle and I'll be on the mandolin. And you know, a lot of people go to Ireland and they bring back postcards. Well, we brought back friends, you know, so we feel like we're very fortunate to have those friends here today. Are you ready for this, sweetie baby? All right. Singing bird as you. My singing bird as you. My breast, for there's none of them can sing so sweet, my singing bird as you. Tommy.
Where is that song from, Patrick?
You'll have to tell me, sir, because
It's an Irish song.
we learned it from Jenny Higgins, young Jenny Higgins, in 1991 on my carport in Joyston, North Carolina. That's where we learned it.
She grew up in Cove, she lived in Carlo, but I think that was before she lived in Carlo.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I know that
It's back in her
the only
wild
other recording
years.
I'd heard was Sinead O'Connor doing it.
Oh, really?
Something, yeah.
Ah.
I like it.
It's a good. Well, the bird lives through the song, so it's a
Yeah.
good.
That's a good.
It's not like most Irish songs.
I know. I was gonna say that's unusual. It's tragic.
Yeah. Okay.
Tommy,
I'm ready.
are you going to talk about this one?
I will.
You're
Well,
a good
you
man.
know what?
You're a good man for that, sir.
That's an Irish song that they learned here, and this next song is an American song that I learned from a man from Cork. It's funny how the kind of circle does spin around. And I learned this from Philip King, who's a singer and he's a filmmaker in Ireland. And I just learned it I just learned it casually from Philip. He sings it a cappella, and that's how we start the song. And I started messing around with the song and just added some chords and things. And I'd never heard anybody but Philip sing this song, and he would sing it very, very slow. And I thought it was a traditional American song. I thought it was slow. And I called it Fiddle in a Bow, because that's what I thought it was called. But apparently it's actually it has bluegrass roots. And I didn't know any of this.
Well, Tommy and I were talking. You know, the first time I told you about the first time I met Tommy. You know, one of the things that drew me to him was his musicianship, as you're going to hear in a moment. But the other thing was that he was doing songs that I knew. And when we started talking about this song, I said, well, you know, Tommy, that song was written by Mitch Jane. Mitch Jane, in case, you know, I'll say Mitch Jane, and you folks will look around and go, well, we don't know anything about Mitch Jane. And then I'll say, do you remember the Darlings on the Andy Griffith Show? Yeah, the Darlings. Well, Mitch Jane was a member of the Darlings, and he co-wrote this song with another gentleman who is synonymous with bluegrass music in America named Joe Stewart. Joe Stewart is a well-known musician for two things. He worked several stints with Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. He was Bill Monroe's dear friend. And Joe Stewart's one of the few people who played bass, fiddle, and guitar in Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys band. Joe Stewart's other claim to fame is he has a Martin guitar that Hank Williams Sr. fell flat on and squashed into a matchbox.
Oh.
Well, it was reconstructed, you know. So
Good.
those are the two stories about Joe. But I love Tommy's version of this song.
So this is the whole world round, or Fiddle in a Bow, depending on where you are. Heard my neighbor's rooster crow early in the day. Heard his axe beyond the woods, and now I'm bound away for Sunday love, city lights. Some they crave the town. Me, I'm bound for the lonesome woods. That's where I'll settle down. Fiddle and a bow and a firelight glow. You can hear that lonesome sound. I leave behind my troubled mind and go the whole world round. The red squirrel goes when the gray squirrel comes. The eagle nests alone 100 miles from the wagon trailers where I'll build my home. Fiddle and a bow and a firelight glow. You can hear that lonesome sound. I leave behind my troubled mind. that's where I lay me down. Fiddle and a bow and a firelight glow, you can hear that lonesome sound. I leave behind my trouble in mind and go the whole world round. And now I'm bound away. Fiddle and a bow and a firelight glow, you can hear that lonesome sound. I leave behind my trouble in mind and go the whole world. Fiddle and a bow and a firelight glow, you can hear that lonesome sound. I leave behind my trouble in mind and go the whole world round. Fiddle and a bow and a firelight glow, you can hear that lonesome sound. I leave behind my trouble in mind and go the whole world round. Thank you very, very much.
If I could just say one other thing about that particular song for the music students who are in here. There was a huge use of what we call blue notes, and blue notes come to us from Africa. And that song would have a very different feel if were not for the African American presence in that tune.
Absolutely.
So I'm from Texas. I live in Ireland. Tommy imported me.
I
He imported me.
There you
And
go.
we have a little pub there. We live in Dingle, a little town called Dingle. And we have a pub there called O'Sullivan's Courthouse Pub. It's right next door to the old courthouse. And, you know, I'm going to do a traditional Irish song for you. And it's a song about immigration, like so many of the traditional songs are. Immigration can go both ways, you know. Back in the days of the famine, families would gather together the night before. Generally, they were putting their children generally on boats to usually come to America in hopes of a better future. The gathering the night before was more like when families gather together after a funeral, and as a matter of fact, it was called the American Wake. And they would wake their children. And because they knew once they put them on that boat, they were never going to see them again, ever going to see them again. The journeys over to America or to anywhere during this time of immigration were so treacherous that the ships were actually called the coffin ships. So it was a pretty treacherous journey for them. The best the families could hope for was to receive a letter once their kids arrived saying that they had arrived safely. They knew that they weren't going to see them again. So anyways, the first year we had our pub open, this woman came in and she sang this song. And it just really touched me because, you know, I'd been in Ireland, I guess a couple of years by then. But it's a long ways from home. I'm from Houston, and it's a long ways from Houston. You know, we have Skype, we have Facebook, we have cell phones, we can talk to each other every day. But when you're 4,000 miles away from home and something's going on there and you just want to wrap your arms around them and celebrate, or wrap your arms around them and cry, it's a long way. So anyways, this is called Goodbye Johnny Dear. Just 20 years ago today, I grasped my mother's hand. She kissed and blessed her only son, going to a foreign land. The neighbors took me from her breast and told her I must go. Goodbye, Johnny dear. When you're far away, don't forget your dear old mother far across the sea. Write a letter now and then and send her all you can, and don't forget wherever you roam that you're an Irishman. We sailed away from Queenstown, that is the Cove of Cork, a very pleasant journey we had, and soon we're in New York. I'd plenty of friends to meet me there, and work I got next day, but with all the hospitality, I could hear my mother say, goodbye, Johnny dear. When you're far away, don't forget your dear old mother far across the sea. Write a letter now and then and send her all you can, and don't forget wherever you roam that you're an Irishman. One day a letter came to me. It came from Ireland. The postmark showed it came from home. It was not my mother's hand. 'Twas father who had wrote to say that she had passed away, and just as if from heaven above, I could hear my mother say, goodbye, Johnny dear. When you're far away, don't forget your dear old mother far across the sea. Write a letter now and then and send her all you can, and don't forget wherever you roam that you're an Irishman. Thank you.
saw a lot of guitar pickers come in here. And Tommy, I was going to pick right now, but I don't think I can. I'm going to have to say something about Sandra. If that's okay with you,
No,
sir. Is that
speak
all right?
away. Speak
You've
away.
been married for a while now,
We have?
so everything's known. There are no secrets.
No.
Well, there's probably not.
Okay.
If it's a secret, you probably don't know about it.
Well, maybe so. What I was going to tell you, you know, as you were singing that song, Sandra, I was thinking about all the times that I had been to Ireland, and you know, at the end of the night, when it's quiet, a lot of folks are sitting as we're sitting here, and there is some a cappella singing done. And I was just thinking about what a beautiful version of that was, and I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, she's singing like an old Carrie woman. And then I realized you're from Texas.
I am.
And so,
I am.
and that's what that full circle thing is all about, I do believe. You know, the wonderful thing about living when we live, and you mentioned, I think, communication a while ago. The wonderful thing about living in our time, just as Tommy learned this American song from a wonderful Irish musician, music is everywhere all around you. And I know we may have some musicians in the audience today. I know there are several here. One of the first musicians I ever admired is here, named Jerry Pritchard. And I know he's here today, and we started playing guitars when we were young. And back then it was hard to get information, but now it's pretty easy. You can get a lot of information about all styles of music. And I just love the way you performed that song. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Yeah. What we had done for the program today, we had discussed songs we were going to play, but we didn't actually play them. You know, we were taking the lead from Carolina Ray. We didn't want to rehearse. And so we're having fun. But one of the things Tommy and I wanted to do, as I told you before, I was drawn to Tommy, especially, you know, because he plays different than most people I'd ever heard. And we grew up in different places, but we share a lot of things in common. And one of the things we share is picking the guitar. And Tommy does a beautiful job on this traditional tune. And Tommy, you might say something about the Little Beggar Man. I'm not sure I can say much about it.
Well, it's a tune that we have in Ireland in the tradition there, and we call it the Little Beggar Man because there's words to it. You can sing it as a song. Do you know the words?
Of all the
Or have
jobs,
you-
I think begging is the best. When a
That's
man
the
gets
one.
tired, he can have a little rest.
Exactly.
Something like
That's
that, yeah.
And then it appears in the bluegrass tradition as the red-haired boy, isn't it?
Yes.
So we're going to play around with this thing in a couple of different keys, and so it's the Little Beggar Man or the red-haired boy. It's the red-haired boy today. We're in.
You're on my turf today, Tom.
Exactly.
The red-haired boy.
Boy.
The boy, yeah. so I get a cake off.
I did like that.
Can we get supper?
I loved Saunders' Goodbye Johnny Dear. That was an example of a ballad, and a ballad simply is a song that tells a story. And it's one of the greatest traditions that have been brought to America from the British Isles, England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. And they traditionally were done a cappella while people worked, while they walked, while they sat around the fire at night, just simply to entertain themselves. And eventually, instruments started being used to accompany them. Oh my goodness, we've got a lot of people over there. And
My
in
goodness.
the 1500s, they were traditionally about either love or death because of love, or unrequited love. You know, he doesn't love me, I'm just going to will myself to die. It was kind of that death thing was in there, but it was tragedy, but you never quite knew exactly why. But by the 1700s, it sort of morphed into this thing called broadside ballads, and death was a big part of those, but they were, the gorier the better. I mean, they had lots of details in there that you really didn't want to have, you know, if there was and these were true stories, so it was kind of like the National Enquirer of the day.
You couldn't get killed, you also had to be dismembered.
That's right. And they were called broadside ballads because they were actually written on paper that was like on the broadside, and they were sold for a penny a piece. Sometimes they'd have like dying speeches of criminals, and so you know there'd be a guy on the gallows, and he'd see a guy out there like taking down his last words, and you knew he was going to be turned into a song. And, you know. But anyway. So this next song is an example of a current ballad. It was written in 1998 by Gillian Welch. And sometimes there are very strong women in these ballads in the 1500s, in the 1700s, and in the 1900s. And this is one of those examples. So like all story songs, you just have to listen from the beginning. And it takes a few verses to unfold, but I think you'll enjoy the story of the decidedly 20th century story of Caleb Meyer. Caleb Meyer lived alone in them hollering pines, and he made a little whiskey for himself. He said it'd help him pass the time. Back at my house, Caleb come around, and he called my name till I come out, no one else around. Caleb, my ghost is gonna wear them rattling chains, but when I go to sleep at night, don't you call my name. Where's your husband, Nellie Kane? Where's your darling gone? Did he go on down the mountainside and leave you all alone? Yes, my husband's gone to Bowling Green to do some business there. Then Caleb threw that bottle down and grabbed me by my hair. Caleb, your ghost is gone to wear them rattling chains, but when I go to sleep at night, don't you call my name. He threw me in a needle bed, across my dress he lay. Then he pinned my hands above my head, and I commenced to pray. I cried, my God, I am your child,
gonna wear them rattling chains. When I go to sleep at night, don't you call my name. Hey, that my ghost is gone, wear them rattling chains. When I go to sleep at night, don't you call my name. Well, Tommy, we've had a lot of banjo picking.
We have. That's okay.
That's most wonderful. You know, the banjo, folks, is back again, the full circle thing
Yes.
we talked about. The banjo came to America from Africa, of course, and it's one of the instruments that was big here in the Appalachian Mountains. You know, I always just, when I study the history of the banjo and when I study the history of string music, I just have in my mind, you know, I can just sort of see the fiddle walking down the Appalachian Mountains with a lot of European people, and I can see the banjo coming up from Savannah and Charleston and coming up into the Appalachian Mountain Range. And when the banjo and the fiddle just sort of walked face to face, it was right here, you know, in the western North Carolina. And we've had so much great music that came out of the fiddle and banjo era. And Irish music, also Irish traditional music, uses banjo. Traditionally, they wouldn't use the 5-string banjo like I've been playing, but they would use a 4-string banjo known as a tenor banjo. And Tommy, I might ask you to talk a little bit about how the tenor banjo got into Irish trad.
Well, the tenor banjo it's relatively new to traditional Irish music, but it came back from America to Ireland in the 1920s in some of the larger cities. Boston, Chicago, New York. There were some large Irish bands. There were Cayley bands, and there would be a lot of musicians on stage, and there was fiddles and instruments that you would associate with traditional Irish music. But the banjo, the tenor banjo, started to appear in those bigger bands, as did the saxophone actually. And there's a bit of that 1920s music. Woo!
Tommy, here's the joke. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Wait a minute. That sounds like my mother-in-law when they took her away. Every time I hear it, I'm afraid they're bringing her back. I can say that because I love her. Sorry, Tommy.
Should we run out that door and Well, anyway, those big bands were playing the tenor banjo, and it was only a matter of time before some of them would start coming back to Ireland and bringing a tenor banjo, and so it crept into Irish music. There was a banjo player, Barney McKenna. Barney played with a band called the Dubliners. The Dubliners are still going. They've been going since the 1960s. Barney's dead now. Most of the original members are gone, but Barney was kind of a guy that pretty much popularized the banjo and made it a standard instrument in the Irish tradition. So, back to you, sir.
Well, thank you, Tommy. That was very nice. Well, here's a song that if you're like
Your
me.
mother-in-law didn't think so.
Oh. Well, I love my mother-in-law, Miss Dorothy. She'll forgive me that because of all the people in the world who liked a good joke, she loved a good joke. And it didn't matter if it was at my expense or at her expense. We had many times we told good jokes. But the song I'm going to play today is one that came from the cowboy era, and you always hear this song in traditional music, and I'll play a little bit of it for you. And I'm sure you sang this when you were a little kid, or if you're like me, you might have even sang it. You might have even sung it yesterday.
And it's for Sandra.
Yes, this is for you, Sandra. Yes, I forgot to say that. When you know the title, you'll know why it's for Sandra. Texas is the only gal I love.
That's her.
Now that tune, or the melody for that tune, actually came from the old country, and in the old country they call it.
It's a slide. It's Mickey O'Callaghan's slide. and we were messing around with this yesterday, but slides are like jigs, but they're kind of faster. They're in 12/8 time, and they'd be played down in the southwest of Ireland. Not see in Ireland there's all these different tunes. There's reels and jigs, but there's slides and there's slides, there's hornpipes and there's polkas, but they're very regional. There's the slides and the polkas are played down in the southwest of Ireland. Up in the north of Ireland, they wouldn't really play them at all.
And we're from the southwest.
And we're the southwest. So this Mickey O'Callaghan's slide would be very regional to us. But you'll hear the melody is the exact same, and there's a B part to it though.
Yes.
The A part melody is the exact same note. It is note for note, isn't it?
It is note for note.
Yeah. Okay, but it just in a different time signature. So, Mickey O'Callaghan's slide, I suppose.
Do that.
Tommy was talking about, the slides, the reels, the hornpipes, all the things that they have in common is they were dances as well as tunes. So what you were hearing was the tunes that went along with the dances, and just as we have some dances that are more popular in different parts of the United States, it was the same deal in Ireland.
You know, my cousin, he was learning, when I met Tommy, my cousin actually was kind of instrumental in that. Anyways, he was learning how to play the Irish flute. And he played for about 3 years before he ever had the opportunity to play for dancers. And he said that the rhythm of the different tunes, the reels, the jigs, the hornpipes, made so much more sense when he started playing for dancers. It all fell into place, you know. He got the sway of the music.
And if some of the earlier songs that they played, like The Red-Haired Boy, reminded you of square dance music, if you've ever done that, or contra dance music, it's because that is the music that is played for those dances.
Well, this is one of my favorite parts of the show because we're going to have, once again, a selection from Tommy and Sandra. And I'm not sure which one we're going to do. They talked about several different ones.
Yes.
But after this song right here, what we'd like to do, you know, I started setting up the PA today like I always do. And I started setting up a million microphones, you know, and looking like we were going to be behind a wall and separated from the audience. And Tommy said, "Hold on, wait a minute there, Pat." And yes, you did. And he, but what we wanted to do, we wanted to make this very informal. So I want to listen to Tommy and Sandra do this next selection. And after this next selection, if there's anything we've said or done that anybody has a question or a comment about, we'd like to take just a moment to catch our breath and maybe talk to you folks a little bit, because it's like I said, the first time I met these people, I was really intrigued. I was very interested in the things that they do because it's so much different from what I do. And so after this number here, we'll open the floor a little bit and just take a break from the music and see if anybody has a question for these two or a question for K-Bob. Don't ask me any questions because I don't know anything. What are you going to do, Tommy?
We're going to do this song, and this song was written by an American, Tom Moore. And Tom has been living in Ireland for over 40 years now. He arrived sometime in around 74, something like that, into Ireland from California, from Catalina Island, off of the Californian coast. And Tom has written a whole load of great songs while he's been in Ireland. And by the way, we claim him now, and you can't have him. He's ours. And one of the things that Tom does is we were talking about the reels, the jigs, and he takes traditional Irish dance tunes, and he slows them down and takes the melody and turns it in, puts words to it and makes it into a song. This song is called The Scholar, and it's a Tom Moore special. He wrote it for his daughter who was going to school. And there is a reel in Ireland called The Scholar, a dance tune, and this is the melody of that dance tune, just completely slowed down into something that you can sing to.
See, when Tom came over, Tom and his cohorts, the hippies, the hairy hippies, as Tommy would call them.
Hey, we like hippies.
They arrived in the mid-70s when folk music was really thriving here in America. And in traditional Irish song, you wouldn't have harmony singing, you would have unison singing. There's so much ornamentation in the a cappella singing that it's too much to have the harmonies with it. So what these guys started doing is simplifying it and adding harmonies to it to change it around. Now harmony singing is slipping into the Irish traditional songs more and more all the time. So that's something else that Tom and his gang brought over to Ireland, and it has slipped in. It's made some changes, you know, more of the American, more of the sharing, more of the full circle. Anyway, this is called The Scholar.
The train from Sligo moves too slow as it brings her from the school. Oh, she wants to be home faster than the train from Sligo ever can, and wonders where the passing time goes creeping by the window. My oh my, it's taking longer than it ever did before. Eyes wide as silver dollars, can't think why, but she's a scholar. Hold on, it seems too long to learn what's right from what is wrong. School books and fancy collars might not care to be a scholar. Hold on, Daddy tells her learn to sing your song. The train from Sligo moves too fast when holidays are gone at last and winter nights are long again. Please promise me you'll write me minutes. 2 more weeks till I come home. I can't help feeling all alone. If someone doesn't write me soon, I'll simply blow away. Eyes wide as silver dollars, can't think why, but she's a scholar. Hold on, it seems too long to learn what's right from what is wrong. School books and fancy collars might not care to be a scholar. Hold on, Daddy tells her learn to sing your song. Yeah.
Kay and I are going to play a traditional, we call it a traditional American tune, but it's actually a melody that came from the old country. We'll start off with a little bit of Soldier's Joy, which is a reel. And then, when we go into the second tune, which is Temperance Reel, and it's just the name of the song, it's not something we strongly believe in, But when we get to the temperance part, we'll bring in Mr. O'Sullivan, who will be playing his unique style of Irish rhythm guitar, and it's really cool. If you got guitar players here, check out what Tommy does on the second reel. It's very. Oh, you were going to dance. Go ahead. We've got one more for you. And folks, we do appreciate you hanging around. And thanks so much to Justin Butler and the community college here for having us here today. Thank you, Justin. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is actually a Scottish song, and it's written by Dougie MacLean from Scotland. Dougie's a great musician, great fiddle player and guitar player, and wonderful songwriter. He wrote this on one of the Scottish islands when there was a storm coming in, and they settled in. They hunkered down.
They hunkered.
They did, and temperance was not the order of the day. And they told many stories, and a bit like us when we were driving on Monday, trying to get here, and we were getting through the ice and all the rest of it, but we got through it, and the following day the sun was shining. Well, it's the same in this story. This is called Feel So Near. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks y'all for coming. I really appreciate it.
And if you do want any of that stuff, it's over there. We'll be down there in a second. All right. You find me sitting at this table with my friend Finn and my friend John. From all that he tells